Awesome. So I am so excited to welcome Liz to our podcast today. We are so excited to have you, Liz, on the podcast. And I'm so excited to run another episode of Education Unlocked. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about your journey in the space and to also hear a little bit more about the work you're doing. And so I'm going to let you give our guests your introduction and a little bit more background on yourself.
Well, thank you, Shri. My name is Elizabeth Oberreiter, and I'm the Senior Vice President at WASC. I've been here, I'm starting my 11th year, and I'm in my 38th year in education. This is my dream job. I always wanted to be here, and I'm super excited about what we do. WASC, we are K 12, and we accredit a variety of different types of schools, programs, enrichment programs, adult schools that are post-secondary, that the adults that need to have their high school diploma or some sort of training. So we have a really great portfolio of different type of educational journeys for students.
That's awesome. And can you tell me a little bit more about, kind of your journey into this space? Give me a little bit on your background in terms of getting into it. Was there a certain moment that, made you so excited about this space that you were like, yes, I love, education? Was there a mentor or someone in your past that really kind of sparked that interest for you too?
I fell into education and I had to do a certain amount of service hours at Regis College in Denver to graduate. And I forgot about the service hours. So then a friend of mine had said, "Oh, why don't you just do some volunteer work at a bilingual kindergarten?" And that's how I fell into it. And then I taught in college. I taught a couple of classes at Catholic University of America and then at UCLA as a grad student. And it just kind of went from there. I began as a Spanish teacher, then went up the ranks, I guess if you could say that, as an assistant principal, as a principal, a charter school principal, and then I ran a variety of virtual schools here in the state of California. And then that's what led me to WASC. But I started doing WASC visits in 2009. What WASC asks from schools is for people from the schools to participate. So my principal asked me to participate. And there you have it. And 11 years later, here I am. I've done over 1,000 visits of schools, close to 1,500, I believe, since I started doing WASC. And that's been my journey at WASC. And the beautiful thing of it is that we are evolving with the times. We're looking at different models of schools. It's just not that one traditional school. What we're really excited about are our enrichment programs that are supplemental, and something new to our portfolio of schools are micro schools that are taking off all around the country.
That's amazing. And I guess like another question I also have there too, right, is can you tell us a little bit more about how you have also seen a shift toward more flexible and kind of a more innovative accreditation process? Like what does that look like, during your time as part of this? And I guess how has the role and people's perceptions also changed of that too?
Absolutely. So we wanted to change things around at WASP and go with the times and not make WASP the big bad wolf, because some schools see us like, oh my gosh, it's WASP again. Now we got to do this, we've got to do that. So what we've done in the last couple of years, we put together a team of wonderful vice presidents here at WASP. And what they did was they went out into the field and asked folks, what do you want to see? How do you want us to revise, create something new in a WASC visit? So not only have we become much more flexible depending upon the school and the school model, but we've also taken a look at our report template that schools have to fill out, the self-study, and we've made it universal. It will assist schools that are the different models, a big school, a small school, an online school, an adult school. So what we've also done is, this is the beautiful part of the reimagine of the innovation part of it, is that if there's a school that really wants a virtual visit and it's a small school, we will do a virtual visit. We learned from COVID, and I've got to say COVID revolutionized education. It was not such a great thing for our health, but it revolutionized the way people look at education. So what we did was we learned from COVID, and we made flexible models of visits where sometimes a school maybe can't do that Monday through Wednesday, but then we'll do Tuesday through Thursday. But we've also looked at not having to go to every classroom, having a stratified sampling of the classrooms that we visit when we do site visits. We've also expanded in the sense of looking at the reflective process of WASP. We don't just want it to be a report that schools create and then put it away in a drawer for 6 years and then don't take a look at it for another 6 years. We want them to be doing that continuous improvement process, that cycle of improvement. And it's not just improving the quality of education for the students, it's improving the quality of professional development for the teachers. If we don't have the teachers that are passionate about what they do, then the quality of education students are getting is just not there. So we're having conversations with a variety of different types of models of schools and that flexibility, that innovation of doing visits early in the morning or late in the afternoon. Adult schools have them in the evening, so we do visits in the evening, but making it much more flexible and according to the needs of the school. We just don't want to be that Monday through Wednesday anymore.
Yeah, that is awesome. And I think like that kind of fits into my next question, which is, there's programs that also happen outside of the school day, right? That's after school, that's summer. And, when you're thinking about enrichment beyond the bell, intercessions, how do you see that fitting into the broader definition of student success? And what has that looked like, just across the space when you've seen that and you're like, great, like students now get this extra time, from 3 to 6 or 3 to 5 to embark on something new or a new passion area that they've never discovered before.
Absolutely. And that ties into some of the newer school models. So that is part of our portfolio is the supplemental educational programs. So those are after school weekends, like you had said. I've got to tell you, this is a growing market because that traditional school sometimes can't offer Arabic, can't offer Hindi, can't offer Russian, or sometimes it's very difficult to find these teachers that have these credentials. So students wanting these classes are going, believe it or not, spending weekends learning these languages, learning coding, learning all about whatever their function is. We're seeing an influx right now of specialized programs like coding. We've seen 6, 7 year olds wanting to code, first graders wanting to code, and learning all about that. When I watch these kids do it, I don't even know what they're doing. It sounds really great, but I have no idea. But they do. They know all of the language. We're also seeing many schools take these supplemental programs and putting them into an after school journey that will help them with homework, that will help them gain more understanding in those gaps of learning that they have. So those are some of the after school tutoring programs that are absolutely fantastic. And we are also seeing many students take advantage of these new, like micro schools or online schools where they do all their schooling in the morning and then they go to these supplemental programs in the afternoon and really look for their passion. We've got supplemental programs that not only offer language or coding, they also offer ballet, they
Okay.
offer dance, they offer a variety of different types of PE programs. We've got one that is just amazing. It's called Rhythm and Moves out of the San Francisco area. And it is a supplemental program that goes to the Catholic schools because they can't afford a PE teacher or music teacher. So these programs go into the schools and offer PE and different types of PE and music. We've got our first and one and only Korean language school, the first one to be accredited here in Orange County, the first one in the entire United States. So these programs are helping students that there's more access.
Yeah.
And many of these programs are free or very minimal. And so it's giving them an opportunity to look at some of the stuff they're interested in. I don't remember having these programs. I just remember the Y or I'm an alum of the Boys and Girls Club. So I don't remember some of these other types of programs. So it's a wonderful opportunity for students to gain a better understanding of what they want to do in the future because it's important for them to take a look at it, especially in high school.
Yeah.
We're changing times.
And I think what's really cool too is that like you get to discover, the areas that you want to learn about. And a lot of times without getting that exposure early on, how do you even know that's something that you're interested in or have a passion in, right? And I think So you mentioned a lot of these fun different languages or, areas in music and movement that students can discover. And that sometimes comes out of experiencing it and figuring out, do I like this? Do I not like this? Is this something I want to kind of explore further? So I love that. And I also am just kind of curious too, right? In general, how do you think, accrediting bodies encourage schools to embrace innovation rather than fear it? And I think sometimes, there's that kind of fear of like, hey, this is going to come in and it's going to limit something, it's going to change something. But how can we actually show them kind of the opposite and showing them, how to embrace that innovation instead?
We have many schools, especially in Northern California, that are really embracing these supplemental programs and not fearing them or not taking away a teacher's job. What these supplemental programs are doing is giving opportunities for students, and also sometimes the students' schedules are impacted during the school day, so they can't take this certain class they want to, so they go off and take it somewhere else, an AP class as well. And so some of the schools do fear it at the very beginning because they're like, "Oh my gosh, they're gonna take business away from us." But
Hmm.
then and they've noticed that the there's a high standard of quality in these supplemental programs. They've got highly qualified teachers, they've got professionals, they've got engineers teaching these classes. You can't really get some engineers to go into the classroom because they've got their own jobs, so these engineers are teaching at nighttime. Computer scientists, doctors are teaching some of these courses. So they're seeing that it is an addition to their school day without taking away from what they do during that academic year. Now, there are schools that are fearing it, but for the most part, we're seeing a lot of schools now embracing these programs, especially the charter schools and private schools. They're really embracing these because they maybe can't afford to bring in a teacher, or they don't have the facility to do this, or they don't have the computers to do some of this stuff.
And I'm also curious, right? Because I think there's been a lot of technology that's you guys have integrated across a lot of different areas. You're tapping into AI now. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you've been integrating AI, into some of the data tools? And what opportunities and challenges do you see with that shift? And do you see that being a potential shift even going down the road in 3 to 5 years? How do you see that changing? And, I think that's something that, we're all talking about right now. And so that's why I'm curious about this from your perspective too. Because you bring a different lens. And I'm curious a little bit, about how that works too.
Yeah, part of the Reimagine team had two separate teams to revise everything. And part of it was looking at how can schools use AI effectively for their data. So and this is more specific to public schools, public high schools here in California. They created a data tool that brings in all the data and shows the different trends, shows the different areas, the trends that are declining, the trends that are growing positively. And so this data tool is going to help the schools look at data effectively and efficiently without having to dig into that. It'll be automated. And then they can put all of this data into AI, into chat, and then it'll come up with an analysis. And then the schools can use that analysis to drive their conversations. And that is the beautiful part of it. Instead of spending so much time trying to figure out where do I get the data from? How do I analyze it? And some people are better at analyzing data than others. And so now with AI, it's going to analyze the data for you and then give it out to everybody, and then everyone can have those conversations. So that is a beautiful thing about it. And we're asking also the schools that don't have that data tool, that don't have the access, the private schools, the smaller charter, the K-8s, that they can put in their data into chat or whatever tool they use, and it will analyze it for them. And then again, some of these schools are so small that they only have maybe 3 or 4 teachers. They don't have the time because they're teaching and they're administrators. So this is going to be a very great, effective, and efficient way for them to look at their data and how to move their curriculum forward and improve it.
That's amazing. And I guess another piece adding on to that, because you mentioned so many good points and really shared so many different perspectives from different types of schools and different types of school sizes. I'm also thinking about like just in general, when you're thinking about the future of accreditation within the next 5 years and 10 years? Is there anything you're excited about the most that you want to highlight or you want to kind of, share to our listeners as well?
Super excited about the SCPs, which are supplementary education programs. They're expanding. They're giving a variety of options for parents, and for summer activities and for summer programs. Some of these actually have a boarding part of it where students come to the school and have an internship, such as the Science Internship Academy at UC Santa Cruz. They bring in high school students and they're mentored by professors, by professionals from all around the world throughout the summer. So they get hands-on internship, learning programs, etc. So I'm excited about that supplemental programs, but I'm also super excited about the micro schools.
Okay.
Micro schools are, it's not a trend. It is not a trend. It's here to stay. It's giving options to parents. It's giving options for students that are, maybe some students are shy or they sit in the back of the classroom, don't say much. I was like that in grade school. I didn't say much. I was in the back. Never got to sit in the back, but I almost thought I was in the back. It's giving them those one-on-one opportunities. These micro schools can be as small as 6 students, all the way to 30 or 40. Very small, one-room schoolhouse approach. And what we are seeing is we are seeing students really build their confidence. Students that have not been able to say anything throughout their elementary years are now confident speakers. Some of these students are taking Toastmasters for teens and are incredibly articulate. Students are also, these micro schools, or some of these micro schools are also specific. I visited one virtually in the state of Texas yesterday that does PBL, project based learning, and the students take their project based learning and they weave all of their core academic areas into these projects, and then they present them to the public. The public is there for the presentations, for the showcase. Many of the schools are also maybe religiously affiliated, but what is beautiful about them is that they're just not coming up with somebody having an idea of, oh, I'm going to open up a school. These schools have solid curriculum. These schools have maybe a different type of assessment, but they have assessments, they have everything, but they're one-on-one. These schools are being opened up by educators, by previous administrators. So they know what they're doing, they know what to look for. But the beautiful thing is that the students are not being left behind, that there's an opportunity for them to and show who they are. And as well as some of these micro schools are also going out into the community
Yeah.
and they are giving the students field trips, showing them. This school that I visited yesterday took students to a blacksmith.
Oh,
Wow, what schools do that? And it was just awesome. The students were super excited about that. I believe that this trend is going to keep growing and showcasing the innovation of education, the innovation that maybe some of the larger schools can't do because they're so large. The large schools are still doing a great job. Don't get me wrong, they're still doing a great job for the students that like the larger schools, the traditional site-based schools. But for students that don't do as well, these micro schools are something for them. So I believe that that is the future right now. And I'm so excited about the different options for families. I remember seeing on CNN during COVID, CNN had something special on education, and it was something related to girls and how they're doing. Many of these girls that were interviewed said, we want to stay in the virtual education world because we're getting more out of it. They're listening to us. We are able to talk to each other and not be shy and not be made fun of, maybe. So a lot of, because of COVID, all of these schools have become known. And again, many parents never thought that their students would be in a different educational setting than their own. I remember I went to an all girls Catholic school. I had a great time, but I can tell you that if I were doing education now again,
yeah.
I would have second thoughts. I would love to be in this virtual world because I could do my passion. I could do the photography I always wanted to do in the afternoon and do all my education in the morning. I want to share with you also another micro school that we accredit. And I met a student, I met a family that, and they did this before COVID too. So it wasn't because of COVID. This family wanted their two sons to get to know the world before they're 18. So they move every 6 months. Their parents work remotely. Obviously, you have to have remote work to do this.
Yeah.
So they can be anywhere. So when I interviewed the family, they were a little late for our meeting, but the kids looked like they had just come out of the pool or something, and it was fine. They had just come. Actually, I think that's where they were, but they had just come back from a safari. So they were in Kenya, and so the students are doing their work online, but then they have the opportunities to get to know the country they're in. I have met so many families around the world that are doing this to give that exposure to the students, really becoming global students. Another thing that I'm super excited about, virtual education, like micro schools, gives those students that opportunity to do what they want to do in life. I've met a lot of actors. I met a junior NASCAR racer many years ago that would
Wow.
do her studies between racing. And when I spoke to her mom, she's like, she's doing great. She loves this. She's able to do the racing and then she's able to do her academics. And I even asked her, I said, is she planning on doing this forever? And she's like, no, we don't think she will do this as a career, but she wants to do it now. And I've also met actors, some Disney actors that I remember actors used to have their own tutor and
Okay.
you could follow them around. So now they're online. So many, I mean, equestrian students, skating students I've met, future Olympians maybe that we'll see. Maybe some of these students that we've interviewed over the years that are virtual students in skating and skiing are going to be the ones going to Italy this year for the Winter Olympics. So all of these different types of models of schools are really helping students out, gaining much more access to a different type of education than what we all grew up with or what I grew up.
That is amazing. And I love the passion you just kind of shared across so many different areas and kind of student kind of interest. And I think that's what's amazing is like there's just so many different ways that students want to learn and everyone learns very differently. And I think you very much embodied like what that looks like, which is amazing. If you could go back and tell your younger self, maybe a tip or two or a lesson learned, is there anything that comes to mind that you could share?
Lesson learned. I would have gone for some of my passions more if I had been a little more confident. None of us are the same person when we're older than when we were younger, but I gained confidence from a variety of my teachers. Of course, my parents, especially my mom, but some of my high school teachers gave me a lot of confidence, and to this day, I'm still in contact with.
Okay.
And it's been decades since I graduated from high school. I believe that I am a better per I don't know if I want to say I'm a better person, but if I were to do something over again, I would actually try to volunteer more because I went to a Jesuit college and part of that is men and women in service of others. And I think that's why I enjoy what I do so much. I'm serving others, serving schools, giving them different types of things. But I think that's something, if I were to go back in time and change something, I would have gone gone after my passions a bit more. Not to say that I didn't, but a bit more. But the education I received was great. I remember all of my teachers with great love, and I can name every single teacher I've had since kindergarten all the way to college, and even some of my grad school professors. But what they did is they showed me the road, and the road shouldn't just be here. What I want to share with students right now is you should have a fork in the road, but be able to navigate it to different waters, like a river or a stream that goes around to give you that opportunity um, to look for other avenues. We don't have to be in the same job forever. We
Yeah,
don't have
exactly.
we don't have to be in the same box. We should be able to go be that and share our passions with the world.
I love that. And I think a lot of times when we think of, opportunities or ways that we can get involved, we think it's sometimes like linear, right? Like I know when I first started my company, everyone's like, wait, you studied business. Why are you starting something in education? And there's a lot of just, like sometimes like, oh, you're supposed to be there. Why are you doing this? It's like, and I think sometimes, that comes out when you discover that, you can do really whatever you want to, and you can have so many different ideas and paths, and they might take you in different directions. And I think that's amazing. My final question for you is, has there been a book or a podcast or, a leader that you have just looked up to and, has been kind of your grounding force or something that's really just inspired you a lot?
There's so many great people out there in the world that I look into and I read about. I look back at history. I look back at history and how a perfect example, Abraham Lincoln. I'm a huge fan of Abraham Lincoln, and I read all about Abraham Lincoln all the time. I also look at the people out there that I don't have just one. Abraham Lincoln just comes to mind, but people in not just in education, but people that have made a difference and an impact in the world all around. It could be a movie star. It could be the guy down the street that is impacting the world. So there, to me, that I don't have really a favorite. I'm sorry to say, I don't have a favorite book to read, but I do want to highlight some of the people that, gosh, some of these people that have passed away recently. Like for example, Diane Keaton. Who
Yeah.
knew she had such a passion for animals? But she was not just this famous movie star, but if you were on Facebook, if anybody was on Facebook the last few weeks, notice how much this actress impacted a regular person.
Yeah.
Um, and another example, Queen Elizabeth, Duty. I'm a fan of Queen Elizabeth too. Duty. She did everything for the UK, for England, but if you look at all of these people and how they've impacted the world, they've impacted everybody a little bit. I can't tell you one educator per se. I can tell you one educator that did impact me, and her name is Dr. Mary McCullough. She is a professor at LMU, and she was our assistant principal at Alverno Heights Academy. And she really told me to think about what you want to do in the future. And it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, you just do it because it's your life. And that's what I try to tell people. So I think that if I were to look at one educator, it would be Dr. Mary McCullough,
That's amazing.
who I'm still in contact with. I better email her soon, but who I'm still in contact with. And so what would I, if you were to ask me right now, what would I want to be remembered as? I would want to say a person that wants to be remembered as someone who is funny, who is passionate about education, but also somebody who deeply cares about that academic journey for anyone, not just the student, but for that adult student that maybe there were hiccups in the life and couldn't get a high school diploma until they were 60. I want to be remembered as somebody who made that sort of impact in that educational world. But there's so many good people out there in education. And I love what I do. I love WASC, and going back to in the next 5 years, who knows? But I know that WASC is growing, and our supplemental micro schools and adult schools are growing. And we've got a great team at WASC, and I'm really excited to be part of a wonderful team of folks that are boots on the ground, that are passionate about what they do and love working with students in schools.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. This is amazing. And like, I just really appreciate you sharing so many different details, so many different personal stories that you could tie into all of this, which is even more meaningful. And I am so honored to have had you as a guest on the podcast. So I just want to thank you so much again for your time, for joining us today.
Bye.